What's up guys, if you watched my recent video you've seen I put the HTC One's camera to test in low light situations against the Nexus 4. HTC came out on top for sure. Now I've taken some pictures today and it was a sunny day, so let's see how they do in bright light conditions. Let's see if that megapixel is going to make a difference. We'll find out right now. Okay guys, and here we go. The first thing you're going to notice guys is the HTC One actually has a wide angled lens. And you can see here it fills the screen. You're not getting this 4:3 kind of cut off with the black bars. You're going to get more in your shot than you're going to get in most other cameras. Let's talk about the actual detail. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the brightness and the how much light is getting taken in. Again, the HTC One brings in more light. The clouds are a brighter white. The blues are, again, brighter. But yeah, it looks like it's taking in much more light than the Nexus 4. Pretty obvious considering it has the ultra pixels. However, I think the Nexus 4 image is sharper and has more detail, and this is where I think the 8 megapixels makes a difference. I'm pretty sure you can see it right there in the grass. You can actually see the blades of grass here, whereas on the Nexus, on the HTC One, they look kind of blurred in. You can see the difference there. It's kind of massive, right? So that is one of the big differences. And if I zoom in on the HTC One to this lamp, I can't zoom in anymore, by the way, it doesn't let me. But it starts to blur out. The image, I think, starts to blur out a little bit. If I go to the, if I go and zoom in here to about the same level, the Nexus 4 keeps the sharpness. It's still sharp all the way around. It looks very sharp everywhere. If I zoom all the way in, it still looks pretty damn sharp. So guys, this is where the 8 megapixels really makes a difference. You can actually see it is sharper on the Nexus 4 than it is on the HTC One. If I zoom back out, so we can see the how it's meant to be viewed, both look pretty good like this. I prefer the HTC One like this. You know, the image looks a little bit brighter. The Nexus 4 definitely has more detail though, and that is something to really take note of. You can definitely see it in the grass and in the image, and easily you can see it when you're zooming in. Let's move over to the HDR shot. Here we go. Did I do that? Yeah, here's the HDR shot, guys. Again, the HTC One is taking in more light. It's got the brighter image, but again, the Nexus 4 looks like it has the sharper image. Now, the HDR, both of these are taken with HDR, by the way, guys, and you can just see the detail in the grass. Again, if I zoom both into these, it looks a little bit blurry over here. The HTC One doesn't pick up the detail that the Nexus 4's 8 megapixel camera does. So in terms of normal light, so far we can see that the Nexus 4 and most other cameras will pick up more detail due to the 8 megapixel camera. The HTC One does fantastic in low light. It beats out everything. Still gives a really nice natural image, which I think is awesome. But there's definitely more detail than the Nexus 4. Let's move on. Whoops, wrong way. To this image here. Again, more light on the HTC One, more detail on the Nexus 4. And if we zoom in, you can see that there, the Nexus 4 is definitely keeping its sharpness. In terms of which one looks more natural, when the image is like this in the normal mode, I think the HTC One does look more natural, and you can see the more light getting picked up is makes the picture look a little bit better, a little bit brighter than the Nexus 4's, and you can see that. But yeah, it's kind of difficult to say who wins out here, guys, because the Nexus 4 has more detail. The HTC One picks up more light and makes pictures look really nice. We've got some more to show you, so let's go through. This is the HDR of that same picture, guys. We'll move on to this picture. And again, more light on the HTC One. And this is kind of a big deal, actually. This is both shot in normal mode. The Nexus 4 looks like it kind of struggled here. You know, it didn't really get it right. You know, this was very bright. You can see the HTC One got it pretty perfectly right. You know, everything is really bright. It picked up more light from the surroundings. This was very sunny, by the way. The Nexus 4 kind of dimmed everything else down. Didn't look quite as good. Again, if you zoom in, Nexus 4 stays very sharp. HTC One does lose a little bit. But I actually think the HTC One has a better picture there compared to the Nexus 4 for sure. If we move on, this is the HDR version of that picture, guys. Again, I think the HTC comes out with the better image. So yeah, move on. This is a macro shot, guys. I only took one of these. I didn't do a HDR mode of the same flower. I kind of got a little bit further in on the Nexus 4, which is a little bit annoying. But nonetheless, again, you can see more light taken in on the HTC One. You've got more of the surroundings. If we zoom in, again, I think the Nexus 4 has the edge on sharpness due to the extra megapixels. This is going to be kind of a difficult one to say who's the winner, guys. In terms of low light, there is no competition. The HTC One absolutely smashes it. If we go back to that first image, which I think is probably the best one to show you. Okay, guys, and here we go. We're back to the first image. So if you're not zooming in, guys, and you're not doing a lot of cropping, I've got to say I prefer the HTC One camera. I think HTC have done an excellent job with this ultra pixel thing. You know, they didn't just bump up the megapixel, even though the megapixels are important, as we've seen when you're zooming and cropping. When you're looking at the image like this in their normal mode and you're not zooming in, I've got to give the win to the HTC One. It just produces a more natural image, a brighter image, and it just pops off the screen rather than the Nexus 4 one that has a sharper image, but it looks a bit dull, and you know, it doesn't pop off the screen like the Nexus 1, like the HTC One does. Now, if you're zooming in and you've got to do a lot of video editing or cropping and stuff like that, you're going to need higher megapixels. There's no doubt about it. That is the one place where the HTC One's ultra pixel camera falls. As soon as you start zooming, you lose a lot of sharpness. You can see there it is pretty damn evident. You know, let's just take that fountain in the background. I can zoom all the way in here on the Nexus 4 and it starts to blur now. It's already blurred on the HTC One's 4 megapixel camera, and that's the big deal, guys. That's where you're going to notice the difference in the megapixels. But if you're just taking these face on, you just go ahead and take photos. The HTC One is an excellent, excellent camera. You can't beat it in low light, but there you go, guys. Take from it what you will. It all depends on your needs. If you're just going to be a person that goes out and shoots stuff and, you know, looks at their pictures on their phones, the HTC One camera is excellent. It's going to be a great one for you. You know, if you're not and you need someone and you need to crop images and you want to cut people out and zoom into places, you are going to need a camera with a higher megapixel count. Yeah. Peace out.